We here at the Turnout are huge fans of the Runaways TV show that was on Hulu, and I actually did a video about it not too long ago called 4 Reasons Why the Show Was Cancelled. Today's video, however, is 3 different storylines that they could use if they wanted to bring them back. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Turnout. I'm your host Eloy. Don't forget to check out usaaudiences.com for special event and movie screening invites for when this whole COVID thing is over. So as I said, we've already addressed the cancellation of the show. I think that it was a really good show. I think that they did all that they could with such a crazy combination of characters. I mean, what other show has this kind of cast of heroes? One is a witch, one controls a dinosaur, one is a gadgeteer inventor, one is an alien, another is a mutant, and the last doesn't have any powers at all. It's kind of crazy when you actually think about how good this show was, considering how kind of bonkers it was. But I think that's Marvel for you. Obviously, I'm a fan. I have the shirt. I was thinking that there's a few different ways that I could see a season 4 going for the Runaways. And if anybody from Marvel is watching this, feel free to steal these ideas. And they do have some obvious limitations, budgets, contracts, obviously the age of the actors. Molly was already showing that she was older than the character was supposed to be in the show. But even if they can't bring the same actors and stuff back, it would be interesting to see them try to tackle the Runaways again in the larger MCU. So here are my 3 theories on how they could be introduced either in a season 4 or in the MCU in general. Number 1, Victor Mancha. So Victor Mancha, he's a character from the comics. The storyline involves the following. Gert from the future comes back and says that the Runaways need to stop this kid named Victor Mancha, because in the future, he becomes one of the most powerful supervillains called Victorious. And it turns out that Victor was a clone of Ultron and is formidable, but eventually he joins the team. They could actually use this in a really cool way to bring the Runaways into the greater MCU using Dr. Helen Cho. Do you remember her? She is from Age of Ultron and could act as kind of a mother figure to Victor. Victor was of Mexican descent in the comics, but being that he's a smaller kind of character, we could switch that to Korean and it wouldn't really change that much for the MCU. I feel like the smaller characters are a little bit more malleable than the bigger ones. But the reason why Dr. Helen Cho is specifically intrinsic to bringing Victor in is because she is the one that would have had the technology to create a cyborg body for him, and she is the one who had Ultron hooked up to her systems, which means she could have retained a fragment of Ultron and tried to bring it to life in a new way and try and create a being for good. Not made of vibranium in this case, it would be a cyborg, but it would be an interesting look at what this artificial intelligence could have been had it been giving a nurturing environment, and could be good to bridge that divide and bringing them into the larger MCU. And the fact that he's a sleeper for a large part of this and is not activated by Ultron until much later on, that could be used for great effect in like a season of the Runaways. You have like maybe half of the season is them tracking down Victor, meeting him and realizing he's just a regular kid, then finding out he's actually a cyborg. Then that flip gets switched and now he's an evil cyborg, and they have to figure out how to stop him. What's interesting about Victor, and the reason why he would be my first way to bring the show back and also bridge the gap into the larger MCU, is that he's actually already been hinted at in the show. The first hint came earlier on in the episode when Nico notices that future Chase looks different, namely the scar around his neck.
Speaking of, that scar doesn't look like a lacrosse injury.
It's not. Never trust anyone named Victor.
Your dad did that?
Not my dad. Also not relevant to our current situation. We need to gather the others.
At the end of the episode, also, Alex finds a note from himself from 2028, which has 3 things listed on it. And one of the things on that list is hide Mancha. So I think that that's kind of a slam dunk. Let's bring Victor Mancha and bring the Runaways back to the MCU. The second way that they can bring the Runaways back is through this new What If series that's coming to Disney+. It's going to be an interesting show where they're going to take a lot of different things. What if Captain America had an Iron Man suit? What if Guardians of the Galaxies were from Mars or whatever? Like, you could be a million different things. One of my very favorite what if comics was what if Wolverine was Lord of the Vampires? I mean, come on, you could do whatever in a what if. Well, another what if was what if the Runaways took the place of the Young Avengers? And that, honestly, to me, has so many interesting implications that could come with it. Obviously, that injects them directly into the MCU, but also takes these characters who are really fighting to find their true self and how to use their powers and the extent of everything, and puts them into capable hands. The Avengers could be amazing mentors to the Runaways. And even if it was just for one show, Nico could be trained by Scarlet Witch, since they're both magic users. Carolina could be trained by Thor, since they're both technically aliens. Molly could be trained by Bruce Banner, learning how to control her strength and her anger. Gert could be trained by Black Widow, teaching her how to fight, possibly how to fight in conjunction with Old Lace, using her as the most dangerous weapon. Chase would obviously be mentored by Iron Man, using his natural tinkering ability to make him even better. Alex could be trained by Captain America, and maybe he could even be the MCU's version of Patriot. Yes, it would be alternate, but it's the MCU, they change stuff all the time. And if they decided to include Victor Mancha, he could be mentored by Vision, since they would actually share origins of being created by Ultron. And even if it was just for one episode, I would love to see these actors come back, reprise these roles, and actually share the screen with the larger Avengers characters. I mean, it could just be one of the most amazing things ever. And the third idea that I have for season 4, or a continuation of the Runaways series, is to follow that evil Alex betrayal storyline, because, oh my gosh, they were setting up for such amazing things. And that last episode, while great, I think it kind of chumped out a little bit on what was supposed to become of Alex. I would personally split this season into 2 halves. The first half would be him taking down each of his friends and stealing their powers, and then his eventual defeat, because they did end up taking their powers back from him and defeating him. And actually, he dies in the process. I love this idea that the character with no power steals everybody else's powers. Because that's actually one thing that the show did, which I thought was kind of interesting, is that they kept alluding to him having powers. Maybe he's got technopathy, where he mentally communicates with machines and whatnot. But if you've read the comics and if you've done any amount of research, he has no powers. He literally is just smarter than everybody. He doesn't even have super intelligence. He is just more intelligent than the other people on the show. So he is the best strategist, tactician, and, person with computers and everything. He's just smart. So him giving into his dark side is actually pretty interesting, and him wanting the power that all of his friends have makes sense for somebody surrounded by so much power, and yet he'll never wield any of it. The second half would be him returning from the dead, which he also did in the comics, and he's actually connected to Nico's dark magic. In the comics, he's brought back to tutor her. The second half of the season could be Alex turning Nico against the group and manipulating her until they realize that only by coming back together into a dysfunctional family that they are, could they ever hope to defeat him and send him back to hell, or drain his body of the demons, or whatever they want to do at the end of it. But Alex as the big bad of a season makes perfect sense. And yes, that would mean that Alex would have to further change and evolve into a little bit more evil version of himself.
Embrace that. The darkest part of you. The part that you got from your parents.
I think that the actor, Renzi Feliz, I think that he did an amazing job. I think he pulled off all of the different tones that he had to take on the show. And I think making him trend towards a little bit darker, I think he could handle it. He's a good actor. I can't wait to see him in more things. So there you have it. Those are my 3 ideas on how to bring the Runaways back from Cancellation. These would be the storylines that I would say they should go with if we wanted to see more of the Runaways. But I want to know what you guys think about it. Which one do you think is most likely? Which one would be your favorite for them to come back and do? Let me know about it all down in the comments. Also, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell notification so you always know when the Turnout releases a new video. And definitely go check out my reasons on why the show was canceled. That was a fun video to do. Otherwise, I've been your host, Eloy. This has been the Turnout. Thanks for showing up.